Here at AT&T Stadium with Joe Corsini from Larkmead in Napa Valley. Good afternoon, Joe. Thanks very much for talking to me.
Of course, pleasure.
And could you please tell me a little bit about the wines that you'll be pouring today?
Absolutely. So we'll be pouring our 2019 White Label Cabernet from our estate, as well as our 2018 CELLAR. The 2019 White Label and the White Label Cabernet in general is our flagship Cabernet from all over our estate property. We have 150 acres. We have 110 planted. And so this is the only wine that sees fruit from basically everywhere. So it's the best kind of snapshot of Larkmead Vineyards in a given year. And then the CELLAR, the 2018, is going to be 100% Cabernet from 1 3-acre parcel that we consider basically our Grand Cru parcel of the 110 acres.
Okay, great. And those are both very strong vintages, 2018 and 19?
Yes, absolutely. So 19, a bit of a warmer vintage. The way our vineyard usually kind of shows itself is in a warmer vintage. You see a little more kind of red fruit, a little bit spicier. In a cooler vintage, you see a little more kind of blue and dark fruit. And so this is a good, actually, tasting 18, which is cooler, 19, that's warmer. You kind of get the snapshot of both of them.
Great. And tell us a little bit about 2020. I know a lot of people struggled. It was a challenging year. Did you make a wine in 2020?
We did. So we were, I feel like Larkmead dodged so many bullets that year. But we were completely picked about 10 days before the glass fire started, which only started about a little over, within a mile or two of where the winery is. So we were very, very close. But that said, the juice was all in tank and battened down. So it was protected when the smoke did come through. What we did decide to do, because the vintage was actually going to be quite difficult, even if you take away the fires because of how extremely hot and dry it was we decided to make one wine from the estate, or one red wine from the estate that year. So everything, all of our reserve blocks, whether it's Dr. Olmo or Lark or CELLAR, we used those parcels along with some others to basically create our White Label Cabernet for 2020. It's the only one we released.
Okay, great. And you're pretty pleased with how that turned out?
Yes, I think it's wonderful. It's been fun to show around. I've actually really enjoyed showing it side by side with the 19, which I wish I could have done today. But it's one of the interesting things about 2020, I think, is that if the wine wasn't good, there was no way anybody was releasing it. So what I have tasted in bottle, whether it's from us or from other folks, has been really, really excellent because they weren't going to mess around with putting anything that wasn't up to standard. So.
Okay. And so as far as consumers are concerned, if they see a 2020 on the shelves, they can probably...
I would say 2020 is a vintage where go with the people you trust. If it's a winery that you have a long history with, it's a winemaker that you really, really love, I think I would feel pretty safe buying those. It is a warmer year and it's a little more kind of, I would say there's more opulence in fruit, and that's just because of the heat and stress. But I think if you have been buying wines from, whether it's Larkmead or someone else for years, I think you're safe to go with it because, again, they wouldn't have bottled it if it wasn't good enough to put it under their label.
And I was in Napa a few months ago, last February, and they were all quite excited about the 2021 vintage. What can you tell us looking ahead a little bit to 2021?
Yes, so 2021 was even more of that kind of peak of the drought cycle. So again, very, very dry. For our property, it was the smallest harvest we have on record, and that was because of the vine stress and the lack of water. That said, the fruit that was out there was fantastic. So we are really, really excited about it. It's the first year of our new winemaker, Avery Heelan, having taken over. So she took over and finished the 2020s, and 2021 was her first official vintage. Those were just bottled a few months ago. And so as we've been tasting them, we couldn't be more excited, and they'll be coming out basically April 1st. So. Okay.
And I've been reading a lot about the 2023 vintage and how cool it was and how delayed the harvest has been. Can you tell us what it's been like for Larkmead for harvest for 2023?
Yeah, so we are in Calistoga. We'd be some of the first people to be completely picked off, usually several weeks ahead of folks further down valley, where there's a little more kind of marine layer that kind of slows everything down. This year was kind of the great equalizer. The weather was kind of, there's shades of gray, but pretty similar throughout the entire valley. And we were finishing up around the same time as a lot of other folks were. Our last pick day was the 1st of November. And we were off completely last year by, I think, the beginning of the second week of September. So almost, 7 weeks later than what I would say has been somewhat normal. Usually last year was a bit of an extreme because of the heat spike, but usually I'd say probably mid-September is when we're done. So it was long, but the fruit that's out there is fantastic, and we couldn't be more excited about the quality. It was just kind of, keeping your fingers crossed that nothing happened in those kind of later weeks, because obviously fires have come and weather, and it just stayed perfect, and it should be really, really good.
Do you expect lots of freshness and acidity to the extended growing season for 2023?
I think our vineyard offers those things generally anyway. Like we definitely kind of have a little bit more of a rustic site that kind of naturally has a little bit kind of like higher brightness and freshness. So I think that'll still be there. I think because it got so cool, I doubt you're going to be, you know, like I don't think like the wines aren't going to be monsters. They're just going to be really, really, really well balanced, I think. So it'll have freshness and acidity. It'll have fruit. I think it's going to have the full package for 2023.
Great. And what is it about the soils at Larkmead that are so special and help to produce such high quality wines?
So for us, where we are, we're kind of at this, like the confluence of the valley where, you know, it's Napa shaped like an hourglass. We'd be basically just north of what's the narrowest point. And so all these things get kind of pushed together. So we have the alluvial fans that come off both mountain ranges. We have the Napa River that runs right through the property. We have gravel, we have clay, we have this almost kind of sandy loam. So we have one of the most diverse valley floor sites, I think, in the entire valley. So when we're growing Cabernet, you know, we have 74 acres of it, or give or take now. But it's like you're growing 8 different kinds of Cabernet, whether it's the rootstock, the clone, the soil type. So it allows us to kind of make these puzzle pieces, and we have the tanks to kind of individually ferment each block. Then we can kind of put them back together to create what is Larkmead's kind of house style and what we're known for. So it gives us a lot of flexibility and diversity.
So you do plot by plot vinification and in farming, much like they do in a lot of the high end Bordeaux producers.
Yes, and that's been when our new winery was, or newish. We completed an addition to the winery in 2013, and that allowed us to have the space to actually buy these smaller tanks to do these smaller ferments. And I think the wines took a noticeable step up in quality once we had the right tools in our hands too. So
Great. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to trying the wines.
absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.